The part of the importance, really, I think the way you do it differently in Norway is the tremendous government incentive for EV, but you've given us some food for thought about whether that is a good thing. So thank you very much indeed again. Okay, at this point, we're going to ask Tim Williams to sum up. I haven't got a biography for my good friend Tim, who is Chief Executive of the Welsh Automotive Forum, but I think most of you know him anyway. I'm sure he'll introduce himself and sum up the events today.
Thank you, Karen, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm conscious that the first lunch session is actually in 5 minutes. So this is going to be a very, very quick wrapping up from me, because I do think, Karen, we still want to have some questions if we can. A 1 minute wrap up. And I guess for me, many thanks to all the speakers this morning, because really they've made my job very easy, because I think there are probably 2 or 3 key words that will sum up the whole morning session. Starting off with collaboration, because I think that is really important, that we're all collaborating at this time. Universities, industrialists, technology companies, etc. We understand the resources of the world are getting scarcer. We understand that. We understand legislation is probably going to drive what we drive in the future. Sustainability, I think, is a key word under all of that heading. We have to make sure that whatever we're doing is sustainable. And that brings me into what I do as the Welsh Automotive Forum, the voice of the industry here in Wales. We're a component manufacturing activity here, 40 tier 1 companies, 18,000 people, £3 billion turnover per year. Our main job really is looking at opportunities at the vehicle manufacturing end, bringing those opportunities into the supply chain here in Wales, and encouraging companies to grow. And of course that means looking at new technologies, which is why we're here today. But we're also involved in perhaps a wider activity, which we call our green agenda. And basically that looks at almost a helicopter view of Wales in terms of transport, the infrastructure needed for it, energy, where do we get it from, and how does industry take advantage of the opportunities that are coming under that heading. So the green agenda, very important for us in terms of the transport side and especially energy. And working with the universities, both Cardiff, Glamorgan, we're involved in an awful lot of those technologies for energy and sustainable energy, creation of hydrogen done at Baglan, for example, also looking at waste, anaerobic digestion to methane as an energy source. Those are the sort of things that we get involved in. Anyway, that's a quick resume of what we get involved in. Sustainability is a big factor, technology an issue. We've probably got about 2 or 3 minutes for you to put your questions to the panel. So a volunteer for the first question, please. Steve.
I have 2 short questions for Bruno, which are connected with the use that he and his colleagues have for electric cars. First of all, can you tell us what your experience is of resale values for electric cars in Norway? Because I think that that's a key issue as we go forward. And the other one is, it gets pretty cold up your neck of the woods, and one understands that batteries don't work so well in the winter. What's it like?
Yeah. This is a... Hello? Yeah, it's working. The first question, actually, the value is keeping it quite high. It all depends, of course, of the age of the car. But even old cars like 10, 15 years old is sold with a certain kind of value. Let's say 25 of the price when it was new. So it's and what we also see is that they have a very long life cycle, of course. So people are, let's say, changing batteries and upgrading them when things happens. The other question is, of course, cold. It all depends on the car. Of course, if you take the first basic EVs, they were also quite basic in, let's say, warming and cooling facilities. Of course, but when we look at these new cars, they are as comfortable as others. So I don't see the same problem.
I was talking in terms of battery life.
A battery life, of course, yeah, battery life.
Battery.
No, basically not. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that from the owners that I know and also the reports from others, I think that's basically okay.
We
They are, yeah,
We ran a league for a while. It would
yeah.
do 60 miles in the winter and 90 miles in the summer.
Summer, yeah. Of course, you get, of course, lower mileage from it, but basically, I think it would influence not the life cycle of the battery. At this point, I'm not sure. Yeah, sorry.
One more question? Yeah.
Yeah, Chaz Ball, I work for... Thank you. My name is Chaz Ball. I work for Car Plus, which is the organisation that promotes car sharing. And what I'm interested in is from the World EV Cities and from Norway,
yeah.
How much is the market development taking place through car sharing? Because we can see from the Netherlands and from Montreal that that's one of the ways to mainstream it. Is that happening in Norway? Is that happening in other cities?
No, basically not. I think one of the reasons, of course, we have car sharing's organization that has EVs, but it's only a few. I think because of the incentives, they are so attractive that people just buy it and don't want to, and then of course this with parking and so on, it's free and it's easy, so it's not as we can see others places. Yeah.
And, worldwide, I didn't really get into it, but there's a lot of incentives for fleets to purchase electric vehicles, economies of scale and so on. And since I'm based in Paris, I'm actually a member of Autolib, which is the electric car sharing program in Paris. And personally, I'd just say it works really well. It's 140 euros a year and to become a member, and then about maybe 7 euros an hour to drive. And the biggest benefit in Paris is simply that suddenly you have parking, which is quite a new thing in Paris. So they have about, I'm trying to remember right now, they're supposed to deploy about 1,700 cars with twice as many slow charging points. You can charge any car or motorcycle or e-bike you want to there. You pay the same rate. That's been really interesting because in Paris, the Velib program, which was the bike sharing program, really took off. And now in Paris, it's almost a human right that you should bike in Paris. Of course you should bike. And so they're trying to do the same thing with cars, and it's really had some interesting effects in terms of a demonstration project. They estimate that it's going to take something like 22,000 drivers off the road. That hasn't happened yet since the trial just started, so we'll see. There are no real numbers on it yet, but it's pretty interesting. So.
Just take one last question. Yep, so.
So, Christian Schmidt, Southeast West Transport Alliance. You mentioned fleets. I think a couple of years ago there was actually talk in the European Union about possibly requiring public sector organizations to have a certain amount of alternative fuel vehicles of all sorts. That never came to anything. Would you think that such a thing would make a difference of getting the ketchup bottle effect going in the European Union?
I would say yes. I'm not aware of any real big EU initiatives on this, but I know countrywide. I'm personally from Stockholm, Sweden, and municipal cars they have to be EV or low CO2. So you're seeing that in the US as well, other places. It's a great way to demonstrate the technology, and you can bring down cost economies of scale. I think right now worldwide, as part of the EVI, which I'm working on, total purchase orders for fleets are 170,000 worldwide for PHEVs and EVs. So that's 170,000 that have been are committed purchase orders. So for example, the French post office has put in an order for 50,000 EVs, which is more than last year's sales, for example. So there's a lot of activity there. They haven't been delivered yet, so I'll say that, but the purchase orders are in.
I think it's a very valid point. Right, I'm sorry we're going to have to draw the Q&A to a close because lunch is now being served.